Okay, I said I would do a video on this tug punch. It's gonna be a big one. Video in question's 38 minutes and 15 seconds long, and you know since I'm doing a response to it, it's gonna be even longer. So, without further ado, let's begin.
So to start off, I'm going to give a quick overview of where I stand on this stuff, and then we can go forward from there. So the whole point of capitalism is to take whatever capital you have, or whatever capital investors have, and turn that into more capital.
Okay, well, he's right about that much. You have resources as capitalists, you have capital, money, machinery, a store, employees, other stuff, and you try to make more of that. Try to make more money off the money you're spending to go into the business. And, get more resources, get more employees, more store space, more customers. You try to make everything more with what you've got. That much is true about this rational disconnect guy. He's a statist. I'd say he's democratic. Democrat. He's left-leaning. He's not for freedom. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and just go on.
So because of that, corporations are driven by any means to make as much money as possible. That's the
okay.
whole point. They have a fiduciary responsibility to their backers to make as much money as possible. And that doesn't matter if they violate somebody else or their property. So the reason that
Wait, it does. That's bad. In capitalist society, you don't trample on other people's rights. In corporate society, do however. So let's go forward on that.
Government regulation is important is because they can control all of the businesses in limited ways.
Wait, if one big organization, the government, controls all of the businesses, even in limited ways, that's still a monopoly on power, /force, /arbitration, /violence. Do you really want to put all that power into one corporation, essentially, the government, out of all the other corporations? I mean, if the government screws up, then all those other corporations screw up. Because guess who's controlling all of them? The government. Not a good start so far, rational disconnect.
So I actually agree with some stances on libertarianism.
Okay, I guess you could agree with some stances, but to be a libertarian, you have to agree with everything, and I do mean everything. It's all or nothing when it comes to libertarianism. So, say I disagree with truancy laws, but I wasn't a libertarian, which was the case at one point. I did disagree with truancy laws. I still do, but I wasn't a full-fledged libertarian where, I have the works. I don't support the drug war, I don't support gun control, I don't support a government of any kind. Before I got to this point, I was basically at that point, but I digress. It's all or nothing with libertarianism.
I think that there are a lot of regulations that we don't need, that it slows progress down, it just makes things harder.
That's what all regulations do, is they slow things down and make things harder, as you said. They even cost businesses more money. The FDA, for example, makes it really hard for new medicines to get into the market, and other stuff such as condoms, new condoms, so that's pretty frustrating. For instance, it's mainly about profit rather than safety, and even for the regulations about safety, corporations could just do that on their own. If they don't have safe products, people don't buy from them, and they do buy from people who do. So you don't need government regulation.
There's a very clear way of deciding what regulations need to go and what regulations can stay. The whole point of the government is that because they are subject to the people directly through voting, they are to work in our best interest.
But they don't. They don't work in your best interest, your army, he, she, days. They don't work in your best interest because governments are by the elites for the elites. Politicians are elites in and of themselves, and the corporate assholes that appeal to the politicians with money and lobby, they're elitists too. They buy up the government, which is basically structured in a way to be bought up with ease. Have a lot of money, you can get the government to do what you want it to. You can get it to cater to you rather than the people. It's not a fair system. It never has been, and it never will be. That's the state for you. It sucks. I know, I'm an anarchist. After all, I want to get rid of the state, and I want a free market system in its place. Anarcho-capitalism. But for now, the state is here, and it of course sucks. I mean, in a way, your vote doesn't matter, since you're not the elite, just the average man. The elite ultimately get what they want in the end with government. I got some links in the description for all this info about your vote doesn't matter. Ultimately, the elite just get what they want done. Like, there's this cool article that shows you how, it showed this like line graph about how voter approval hasn't really been aligned with policy structure. So the voters want this, yet they get this instead. I can show you that later, but let's just keep going.
So that means that they should only be putting regulations forward that are in our best interest.
Well, that's not going to happen, since government equals power, equals monopoly and violence, equals greed, equals by the elites, for the elites. It's not going to happen, I'm sorry, but ultimately, to be kept safe, that's up to you to ultimately decide. And I guess corporations, when it comes to making products, the government isn't going to help you really all that much for safety. I mean, look what it does with the war on drugs, all these OSHA violations, and gun control. Government sucks. Governments have a horrible track record for keeping people safe.
So if you have regulations that are outright favoring corporations over people, or if the regulations bog down action too much to the point that it hurts people, those are the regulations we need to get rid of.
Well, but they're not going to get rid of those regulations, because companies love regulation. Big corporations love regulation. They love being able to bog down the little guy, the startups, out of business entirely by making it so they have to go through expensive, complicated regulations in order to stay in business. The corporations can do that, the small businesses can't, so they get kicked out. And the corporations don't have to worry about it anymore, since they can even start competing. It's evil, it's disgusting, and that's basically what you're asking for. Well, you're not asking for it directly, but that's essentially what you're going to get. That's what you're leading up to, is government continually favoring corporations, no matter what, logic aside, pragmatism aside, everything aside, and helping the elite out rather than the little guy, the common man. This is what government does. You can't really realistically ask the government, only get rid of the bad regulations, because it's not going to do that. It's going to keep the bad regulations in to keep making money. That's what it does. It's not some benevolent organization that just watches out for you. It's some malevolent organization that just tries to find new and improved ways to appeal to the elite at the expense of the people. Or whether it affects the people or not, they want to appeal to the elite. So, yeah.
New regulations should only be put in place if they are serving the best interests of the public. Okay, so that's where I stand. Now, let's get into the video proper.
So in my opinion, libertarianism is really idiotic. It's based on a lot of really foolish beliefs. Number one, that the market somehow has magical self-regulating properties. The market can regulate itself without help from the government.
The market doesn't regulate, consumers do. People don't buy stuff they don't like.
So there are two problems here. The first is people's access to products. You have a monopoly that denies people access to any other form of that resource. If a company's big enough, they'll be able to muscle out any other competition.
Yeah, and guess how they fucking do that? They do that with government. A company isn't gonna muscle out any competition without a fucking government. That's what they do. That's why they have all these regulations, lobbying, corporatism, bailouts, subsidies, the Tesla car dealership scandal, for example. Companies make it so you can't sell a Tesla car directly to people. Car dealerships, they don't like Tesla. They don't want Elon Musk to be able to sell Teslas to people directly, because that means he gets to bypass their god almighty holy sacred dealership, which makes cars cost more. Heck, I could even show you an example of this. I can even show you an example of this on the site, YouTube. Okay, let's check it out. Tesla car dealership. Tesla versus car dealers. Okay. Car dealers try to... Elon Musk can't sell his Teslas in Texas. That's my state.
Several state dealer associations have basically declared war on Tesla.
At issue whether automakers have to go through dealers to sell their vehicles.
You can go and look at a showroom, but you can't ask questions about pricing, and you can't order one there? Are you kidding me?
Reason TV.
It is my honor to welcome to the stage Mr. Elon Musk.
When Elon Musk launched the first Tesla sports car, he didn't just set out to create a mass market for electric vehicles. He wanted to disrupt the entire auto industry by cutting out the middleman and selling his
Cutting out the middleman. That's who dealerships are, the middleman. Okay, now keep listening.
cars directly to consumers.
No hard sell, no commission for employees, and uniform prices at every store.
Tesla's sales approach has resonated with customers who want a more interactive car buying experience.
I went to the gallery in Houston and sat in one and immediately said I have to have this car.
Matt Holm is one of those Tesla converts. He's a realtor in Austin, Texas, who spends a lot of time on the road driving clients in his sleek Model S. He loves the fact that his car doesn't require much maintenance and can be charged overnight in his own garage. But when Matt went to purchase his Tesla, he couldn't just walk into a store and buy one.
I actually had to go online, configure it, and order it sight unseen, and then have it shipped out from California on a third-party truck, have it delivered to a third-party location. I mean, it was like I was a spy or something getting some James Bond car delivered.
Unlike the big car companies, Tesla doesn't have a network of independent dealerships that sell its cars. The company runs its own showrooms, but in Texas, along with 5 other states, the government makes it illegal to walk into a Tesla store and buy a car.
It makes no sense.
Okay, let's listen to that one more time.
Its own showrooms, but in Texas, along with 5 other states, the government makes it illegal to walk into a Tesla store and buy a car.
You hear that? The government. Okay, so why is the government doing that? Why is the government making it so you, the customer, can't just buy your Tesla however the fuck you want, wherever the fuck you want? Let's see why.
It makes no sense that an American manufactured vehicle would be so challenging to get. You'd have to jump through so many hoops.
Almost every state has some sort of restriction on purchasing cars directly from manufacturers.
Okay, once again, more government.
The purpose of these laws, which date back to the 1930s,
Great Depression era. Nice.
is to prevent car buyers from cutting out the middlemen, which make up a big political constituency. The Lone Star State has about 1,300 car dealerships employing 100,000 people.
You should embrace the franchise dealer network as the
Yeah, fuck Jeff Carlson.
best, most efficient, and most pro-consumer way of selling new cars and trucks.
Are you fucking kidding me? With Tesla, I could have bought it directly and cheaper. With your fucking dealerships, I gotta wait hours and hours on end just to purchase a car that it could have been cheaper if I bought it directly. And I heard car dealerships suck. So, yeah, there's your example of corporatism right there. Car dealerships don't want Elon Musk to be able to sell his cars directly to consumers, because then they wouldn't get a nice slice. They'd be cut out. They're the middleman. They'd be cut out. There'd be no middleman to get in the middle, the consumer and producer. So, what do? They go honking towards government to go and do something about it. So government does something about it, and it sucks for consumer. Once again, fuck Jeff Carlson, corporate shithole. Okay, yeah.
Look at Walmart, for example. They move into towns and they decimate local businesses. Now, if you live in a town where...
I heard from Shane Killian, Walmarts don't really do that. I'll try to link that video if I can find it.
Either they're too poor to afford the more expensive products at a different place, you can no longer vote with your wallet. You have no control in the system. And
what do you mean? If other businesses offer something Walmart can't offer or doesn't offer that people want, people will be able to go to those different businesses and buy that product.
also, if there just isn't any other option out there, your money doesn't matter, because it can only go to one place. Now,
but with a free market system, there will be other choices out there. It's pretty much impossible, and it should be a free market system for there not to be competition. The scenario couldn't really happen, and even if there could be no other place, if people just couldn't afford the goods, they're just not going to be able to buy them, and the company will go out of business, or the company will be forced to charge better prices.
second problem is kind of in the same vein. I want you to look at this picture. You see how just these 10 companies own all of these products. Let's say all of these main shareholder companies all decide to just violate people's rights. Where the fuck else are you supposed to buy anything? These companies run almost all of these products. You have no other options of where to buy. How do you figure out which of these products agree with your ethics? So let's say you want to purchase some Tide, and then you find out they're doing something incredibly unethical. Now, you can't purchase anything else that is owned by this company. You can't buy anything from the main company or its subsidiaries. But it doesn't end there. Now, Tide has at least 27 chemical compounds that make it up. Now, that's not even including what's going into packaging. If you have a problem with any of the manufacturers that make those 27 chemical compounds, you also can't buy Tide. The people that manufacture those compounds get them originally from somewhere else. And if at any point along that chain, any of those people are doing something unethical, in order for you to regulate those companies, you can't buy from any of them. So just for another example,
you could at least boycott some of their products. That'll harm their business. I mean, even if you don't completely boycott the company, but you boycott at least some of their products, that'll still do them some damage. They want people buying as much stuff from as many companies of theirs as possible. So you start boycotting them, they'll start getting hurt by it.
In the same vein, let's look at Koch Industries, and that's owned by the Koch brothers. You know, the two brothers that are basically Captain Planet villains. Now look at all this stuff that they own. We're not going to go into every single one of them, but what we're going to point out applies to every single thing that they own. Let's just look at this, for example. So this is Koch Pipeline. They have multiple pipelines in multiple states, and they run crude oil and natural gas from tons of different providers. So that means that if you disagree with the Koch brothers, which honestly, you probably do disagree with them ethically about something, you would need to find out what companies are putting oil and natural gas through their pipelines, and you would have to boycott those industries. If that oil and gas is going to heat products, or if it's refined into plastics, now you can't buy any of those plastics. If you're still buying products that were used through their pipelines, they're still getting your money. Thus, there's no regulation on them by your wallet. So this just snowballs to a ridiculous degree, insanely fast. And so this applies to every single last thing you go in to buy anywhere.
And I've asked him what...
Well, yeah, but you were able to do the research for this, so... It's not like it's impossible to figure out which company is doing what in the boycott them. You did the research, you've shown it's possible.
Well, they think this, and this is what they tell them. They say that if a corporation acts poorly, that the people will find out about it and the people will not buy their product. But in the real world we live in, that's simply not possible. People are stupid.
So let's have a government where we elect a small number of stupid people to protect us. That'll fix it.
Well, that's assuming that we only elect stupid people. Touché. These are two...
Well, you see, here's the thing, rational disconnect. Voting gives you the chance to elect allegedly smart people, but since it even also gives you the chance to elect stupid people, you shouldn't even have voting around. I mean, with the current system in place, since, how do I phrase? Since the current system in place allowed the chance of Trump getting elected, people took that chance and elected him. Gee, maybe it would have been better if there was no voting at all to even elect this guy. Now remember, if you can elect the good people or the allegedly good people, you can also elect the bad people, the bad for sure people. Now I say allegedly good since I'm against all government, since government is inherently unjust just by existing. You know, you don't choose to have these men in suits leer over you and make you do stuff, even if they do have minimal power, so minarchy's out of the question. So I say allegedly good because I guess they could be good in comparison, or at least honestly trying to be good, but inherently, since government shouldn't exist, they're not good with that right there, right from the get-go. So yeah, elections are risks that shouldn't even be taken. Yeah, you could elect the allegedly good people, but you could also elect the for sure bad people, so yeah, not a risk worth taking.
Two totally different examples. In one, you're electing a small group of people who will listen to experts and help craft legislation that will be effective. In the other example, once again,
Politicians don't necessarily just listen to experts, okay? I mean, politicians are known to be technically illiterate. There's this one case where a politician didn't understand the internet, and he said, it's not a truck, which is technically true, but he then said, it's a series of tubes. He said the internet was a series of tubes. What? It was pretty funny, and I think it did kind of reach meme status, but it goes to show that politicians aren't experts in technology, nor will they necessarily contact experts to be good with technology. Hold up. Alright, I'm back. I had to do something.
Again, you have a small number of people, and you have absolutely no direct influence on who's in charge of those companies. You then have to expect everybody to do the stuff from my original point. There's an asymmetric difference in difficulty there. They're in no way the same thing. See, this is something that he's gonna...
You're right. They're not the same thing. Well, with the free market, you can research companies and decide which ones to buy from and which ones not to. And there'd be plenty of competition willing to fulfill your needs. Of government, you got men in suits in power. Oh well. You know, if you don't like Trump, oh well, he won. You gotta follow him. Voting is turning man against man. You know, one group against the other. The majority against the minority. That's what voting is. You know, I mean, technically, the majority of people voted for Hillary Clinton, but the Electoral College got Trump elected. But putting that aside, let's just say, oh, the majority voted for Trump. Well, that's turning Trump people against non-Trump people. I don't think it's very fair. You know, you got to do what the majority won. You got to do what the majority says. It's like our candidate won. Suck our dicks. You know, even if you voted for someone else, if they didn't win, you're not getting ruled by them. And even if you didn't vote at all, well, too bad, you're getting ruled by them. So yeah, with the free market, you can vote with your dollar. It's a bit better than you said, really. I mean, yeah, it does get kind of complicated with corporatism, but in a truly free market society, you would be able to vote very effectively with your dollar, due to lack of corporatism, due to lack of monopolies created by the government, due to lack of, you know, elitism.
I'm going to do a lot in this video, which is why my video is so freaking long. He oversimplifies everything.
People are dumb, ignorant, lazy-minded monkeys. They don't have time to sit around and research every product they buy before they buy it.
They don't have to. Other people could do it for them. That's how ratings and reviews work.
Okay, so let's put aside the fact that there would have to be researchers and reviewers to dig through that massive web that I already laid out in my first argument. Let's just...
Yeah, and that's what they did. That's where you got the information from researchers. And that worked.
Just assume that there are people who are capable of doing that.
Yes, and as you show, by showing that information, you did show there are people capable of doing that.
How the fuck do you know who to trust? How do you know what reviews are actually reliable? How do you know what researchers actually have done the work? How do you know that those researchers haven't been bought off? And how do you know that a multi-billion-dollar-a-year company won't just create fake review sites and then use their money to make sure that they get clicked first on Google? It doesn't matter if there's a million people saying that this one product is terrible. If you don't have access to those, or if you don't believe them, they're totally useless.
Okay, there are ways of telling a fake review for a real review. Like, excessively positive language. If a review is full of excessively positive language, then chances are it's fake. If a review is ignorant on the product, like it says the product's all good yet doesn't really describe the product, then it's fake. If the interview seemed cookie cutter, it's fake. There are ways of doing this. Links in the description.
We can already see how fake news is going rampant on social media. And without any regulations in place from stopping companies from doing this, how could you ever hope to control them? If there's...
Like I said, you vote with your dollar. It doesn't matter what the fake reviews are, the truth will come out, the truth will remain. People will figure out. People couldn't... I mean, people, even if people believe in the fake review, they could get the product, find out it's crap, and return it. Or at least tell people... other people that, hey, the reviews are wrong, this is really bad. Sales just wouldn't work out by people finding the truth out for themselves just by being duped by these fake reviews. It just wouldn't work. Lies don't work. The truth works. So, yeah.
There's one solo reviewer that's telling the truth. How do you know they're going to be listened to if companies manage to buy off the other 99% of reviewers?
Nobody does this. And that's evident if you just look at companies like BP. How much oil did BP dump into our oceans?
If only they were regulated. Oh wait, they were. But no, we need more, and that would magically change things.
I don't know why adding another regulation on top is the immediate go-to answer. It depends on the situation. In this case it happened because regulators weren't doing their job on site. So the first...
Actually, BP was regulated and they were following regulations. I can show a link to that.
First thing we should do is make sure the regulations that we have in place are being applied correctly.
And they were.
Or we could just change the regulations that are in place to make them more effective. That doesn't mean adding another one. And I mean, yes, if there is an area that's being worked around and that isn't getting the proper amount of attention, you put...
Corporations will find a way to just screw things up with the regulations in place. It's not going to matter how much you modify them, they will find a way to screw up. And this is where you come in with your dollar to hold them accountable for that. On the economic side, wise, and on the like hold them accountable legally. In an ANCAP society, you could have private courts and private lawyers and all that jazz to hold companies accountable for you messing with other people's problem.
Put another regulation in place. Also, who says regulations don't work? This is one example of regulations being in place, and the corporation violated those regulations. After that, they were fined $1 billion. You could argue that they should have been fined more money, but that was what was written into the regulation. Now,
okay, well, if a company's really rich, $1 billion doesn't really mean anything to them. They can still go on screwing up, but they just gotta pay the government a small fee in order to get out of trouble.
If you want to go back and look at how things were before regulations existed, go back just after the Industrial Revolution. Back then, companies destroyed the environment. They poisoned everybody in surrounding communities. They also kept people in about slave-like condition, that they paid them almost no money, they hired children, and it was extremely dangerous. People were maimed all of the time.
Yeah, economic revolutions are what stopped all that, not regulation. More links in the description.
Free market wasn't what stopped that.
Yes, it was. Government just threw its dick in there, too.
It was regulations that stopped it, to once again protect people's interests.
Giant corporations like BP who pollute wouldn't exist without the legal protections afforded to them by the government.
And furthermore, do you hear that? What the fuck is that sound? Oh my god, it's getting louder. Oh my god!
Under real capitalism,
pretty sure I could give a citation.
their business would be subject under the free market and would fail because of what they do to the environment. So I'm smart enough to vote in a ruler who gets to selfishly make all the rules and sell us out to the corporations and allow corporations to keep out competitions, but I'm not smart enough to choose my own deodorant and decide which deodorant company should be around and which one shouldn't. Makes sense.
So when that oil spill happened, BP lost 55% of its market value. Wasn't that the free market acting on it?
Yes, it lost its market value. That was the free market acting on it.
Somehow, we weren't able to put them out of business? So then what was the magic governmental
They got hit pretty hard though.
thing that kept them afloat after losing 55% of their market value? I mean, you could totally win me over. If we managed to totally put them out of business back when it happened, yeah, I would agree with you that in this one case, the market was able to regulate itself. But I can't find any evidence that the US government helped them. In fact, we fined them over $1 billion. So how exactly is fining them money, in addition to their market loss, helping them?
And they had the highest profit margins.
Well, in an ANCAP society, a free market corporation, free market society, corporation would have really been brought down rather than by a government then that just slaps them on the wrist. Governments slap corporations for harming people all the time on the wrist. In an ANCAP society, the ANCAP settlement would put them down really hard rather than just a slap on the wrist. That would take them out of business.
They've ever had.
Maybe because a lot of people are idiots like you and rely on the government to fix the problem. Something that'll totally happen. 80,001 pages wasn't enough? Damn it, try 80,002 pages. I swear that'll work.
What exactly is stopping you from implementing this vote with our wallet thing? You should be able to do that right now.
Well, you got a shit ton of lobbying that makes it harder to vote with your wallet. That makes it hard for competition to be there for you to vote with your wallet, and that's due to government. So government is stopping us from voting with our wallets.
Why aren't you showing that that's effective? Boycotting campaigns don't really work that well right now. And it's not because of the government. It's because not that many people fucking care. And
let me see if I can find this out. Oh, God. Boycotts. There's the bus boycott. Montgomery buses. Let's see. See, here's a boycott working. Stamp Act. Taxation without representation. Sex on boycott of British goods. Security for tax measure. No force motion was on bring repealed. Stamp Act in 1766. Ooh, I don't think that was. Slave ship boycott. Abolish failed to persuade English Parliament government to pass bill conference. Slavery in countries colonies. Abolitionists then called for a boycott of Caribbean sugar from the New World together with rum, coffee, and tobacco relied on slave labor. Boycotters hoped the economic pressure might force them to exploitation. Offering English actions for peaceful sugar. Behind the boycott, some horizons and either have stopped using sugar or switching on Caribbean sugar. Imports of sugar from East Indies took advantage of boycott labor. Frogs and sugar selling. So I charged to display these charges show gas to support the book. So dropped by a third in 2 months boycott. Many grocers refused to sell Caribbean sugar or soft drink. Over next year, sales of sugar rose tenfold. Colonies brought by 1919. For more company boycott. Take that, Henry Ford. Salt March. Salt Act. Okay, well, you get the idea. Boycotts have worked.
And once again, as I pointed out, to effectively stop a lot of companies, you would have to know an insane amount of detail about who they're selling to, who's buying what.
The market does not regulate itself. It cannot regulate itself.
Because undesirable companies stick around forever. That's why Blockbusters and Borders sit on every street.
Borders and Blockbuster didn't go out of business because of something that they did that offended other people. They went out of business because they adopted the internet too late. And
yeah, and that's the free market telling companies you need to innovate, otherwise we stop investing in you. That was the free market.
Provided a service that nobody wanted. I mean, what the fuck? You just invalidated your own argument.
No, we didn't.
I thought apparently the government was somehow magically keeping businesses in place, but apparently not
Okay, the 2008 bailouts kept JP Morgan in place, kept GM in place. Come on.
Blockbuster Borders. Once again, if your argument is valid and you can vote with your wallet, and apparently Blockbuster and Borders are an example of this, why can't you just organize massive campaigns to vote with your wallet now? What the fuck is stopping you?
The truth is, if you're paying attention at all, people...
Businesses make it, corporations make it hard for there to be competition for there to be other people to buy from, for boycotts to be effective right now.
People are terrible, selfish assholes who would do whatever they can to get over their fellow man, just even a little bit.
That's why we take a small group of them, call them government, and give them power to violate other people's person and property at will. Duh.
How's that different under your system? Right now, we have the ability to vote in leaders, but under your system, there would be a small number of representatives. CEO and upper management is small relative to the US population. There wouldn't be anyone to regulate them. That means that corporations would be able to violate property.
What do you mean there'd be no one to regulate them? There'd be consumers to regulate them, plus the leaders of the anarcho commune / settlement to regulate them. You know, leaders we actually choose by signing up to be ruled by them and signing up to live in a commune for. Not just a bunch of men in suits that just happen to be there from generation to generation of voters.
And personhood at will. Except now, the only control that you have is to vote with your wallet. So you're really fucked if the people that are violating your property and personhood are selling essential things that you need at the cheapest price that you can afford. You know, let's look at Walmart. They pay their employees almost nothing, and their employees have such little money that the majority of stuff they need to buy, they can only afford it at a Walmart. They literally...
That's not true. Here, I'm gonna take a break. Okay, let's try to get back to it.
They literally can't afford to go get food somewhere else.
And that's why we have to have an organization.
It's not the case. People can afford food at Walmart. People can afford food at other places. It's not like Walmart just decimates other businesses.
That protects the people against each other and against corporations.
Spooky, scary businesses.
Against unbridled capitalism.
Spooky, scary capitalism.
Oh, well, if you're not going to actually make arguments, then...
Dance time.
Oh god, this is pretty annoying. Look, Dusty Smith acts like capitalism is a bad thing. He acts like it's unbridled and it needs to be controlled. Well, here's the thing. Capitalism doesn't need to be bridled. I mean, it's just voluntary exchange. There's no need to bridle that. There's no need to limit that like Dusty wants. Dusty acts like it's scary for people to make voluntary transactions. So, no, Dapperton was making an argument. He isn't just, you know, straw manning as they're about to say. This tune he chose is kind of funky, kind of cringy, but kind of funky, I have to admit.
Because when you have unbridled capitalism, you have everything is broken down into a dollar sign.
Morality isn't. Capitalism is based on respect for person and property.
That might be what the broad theory of capitalism is based on, but it's not what it's based on in practice.
What do you mean it's not what it's based on in practice? I have something you want, you have something I want, we make the trade and we're better off than we were before. That's capitalism. Literally all capitalism is buy and sell as you please. Voluntary trade, voluntary exchanges. I give you something, you give me something. How does that not work in practice? I mean, there's corporatism, and there's, you know, big government, and there's socialism and communism, but that's not capitalism. Anything bad that's gone on with the economy isn't due to capitalism, it's due to government. So, being able to, you know, I have something you want, you have something I want and train for it too. That's not doing anything wrong.
In practice, capitalism is based on taking capital and turning it into more capital.
Well, yeah, you expand your business, you get some money, and you try to make some more money. To make an omelet, you gotta break a few eggs, that kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with that.
That comes at the expense of somebody else's property or person, it will be done. I mean, point to
Corporatism, sure. Capitalism, no.
any other point in history that there was a business model that was built on top of respecting other people's person and property.
And there are people that will break...
Oh my god, hold on. What about businesses that didn't engage in corporatism? What about businesses that people like? What about businesses that people have high customer satisfaction with? Is that not counted as businesses that respect other people's property rights, that don't fuck over people, that don't do, you know, corporatism or subsidies or bailouts? Does that not count?
Break your entire life down into a dollar sign in a heartbeat and not think anything of it if you let them. That's why you have to heavily regulate these corporations. People are always complaining that corporations have bought our government. The reason they're allowed to do that is not because of too much regulation, it's because of too little regulation.
80,004 pages of law, and I swear the lobbying will stop. It's not like politicians like free money coming their way. Remember, the market is spooky and needs regulating by the politicians who are without any regulations and whom are totally trustworthy.
Oh wait, hold on a second. I think I see a little straw over there.
If I only had a brain.
Oh my god, you became a straw man. So yeah, politicians do have regulations on them. They're called fucking laws. Passing regulations that limit law.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. Politicians write the laws. So there's a bias to make it so the laws don't harm them or don't hold them accountable for their actions. I mean, the government is biased towards itself. It doesn't really matter ultimately if you have this X, Y, and Z law limits politicians for doing this. They will break it, or they'll make a law that doesn't really matter in terms of protecting the public's rights and just protects the politicians' greed. You look at the military-industrial complex, look at the fact that lobbying can even exist, look at all the drug war, and, you know, minimum wage laws, and taxation, blah 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 laws that support the politicians rather than the people. You know, laws. That's not gonna help. And, you know, America is supposed to be based on freedom, yet the politicians keep, you know, curtailing back what people are allowed to do with their money. So I guess you can say in a sense there's a law against politicians being greedy, but do they follow that? No.
Lobbying money? And that, you know, overturn Citizens United? Those kind of things totally wouldn't help whatsoever. Is my sarcasm getting through?
There should be so much regulation against corporations lobbying our government.
Okay, government. Okay, maybe government helped here and there, but overall it hurt.
That there's no way they could do it.
Okay, think about this for a second. If the corporations are in bed with the government, why the fuck would you want more government?
Once again, he said that if you put targeted regulations in place that limit lobbying and try and sever the government from corporations, you wouldn't have as much corruption.
Oh my god. It's not a straw man. More government is more government, whether it's appropriate regulation or inappropriate regulation, whether it makes lobbying stronger or at least supposedly makes lobbying weaker. It's more government. It's more damaging. And government isn't gonna ever end lobbying. It's gonna always allow the elite to contribute to it so it can fuck over the people for its own greed. It's not gonna happen that, oh, more laws against lobbying. No, the government either isn't gonna follow those laws or the laws aren't gonna really do a damn thing. So yeah, you can play games with Dapper and accuse him of straw man, but that's not what he's doing. He's telling the truth.
Oh man. Sorry. Hold on a second. I got an allergy to, you know, straw.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that should help in the future. Okay.
There should be government-run watchdogs who keep a constant eye on every corporation to make sure they can't get their dirty money anywhere near our politicians.
Yes, government is magic. Once people enter it, they stop being greedy and actively start working against their own interests.
Okay, how is that a straw man, and why do you keep showing the Wizard of Oz Scarecrow guy? It's not a straw man, Rational Disconnect. It's not. People are greedy with government. People join government to help with their greed. It allows you to be greedy and enables you to be greedy through law, through violence, through force. It's not a joke. It's not a straw man. It's not, you know, a misinterpretation. Government really is the greatest tool to be greedy with, because it is force, it is law. People have to obey you or you harm them. People have to give you their tax dollars or you harm them. It's the ultimate elitist wet dream.
Oh man, I guess that dumb bit was actually worth it. Cause here's another fucking straw man. I'm just
not a straw man.
Gonna go back to the footage of what I already said.
We need more regulations, not less.
Little known fact, if you repeat something over and over, it becomes even more true than it was before.
Oh shit! Well, that's why you keep using straw men. Apparently you think that just repeating something over and over again
makes it true.
There's no...
He doesn't think that. He's just saying Dusty is repeating things over and over again and acting like that makes them true. You know, like appeal to emotion and all that. In fact, you'd be making a straw man saying he's making a straw man, because he's being sarcastic. He knows saying stuff over and over again doesn't make it true, okay? I mean, come on.
No regulations to stop these people with all this money from buying the government, then that's exactly what they're going to do. And it's the government that has to implement these regulations.
But what you don't understand is under an anarcho-capitalist and libertarian system, there is literally no government to buy. Therefore, it eliminates all chances of corporatism from occurring. And the government can't sell your rights away to the corporations.
What's so damn funny? That's literally the truth. You cannot buy government power if there is no government power being sold. And there's no government power being sold if there's no fucking government to begin with. What is so funny?
Oh my god. He's an anarcho-capitalist.
Yeah, and what's wrong with wanting freedom? What's wrong with wanting people to keep all their earnings, you know, that they earned? Not just have some fuckbutt people in suits take it all away or take a lot of it away. They're not entitled to it. Politicians are not entitled to your money. Taxation isn't just theft, it's entitlement. It's like, oh, we have a right to take your money because we wear these suits and we get to make the laws and we have the authority to determine how your money gets spent. You know, authority, we have it. I mean, come on.
Oh my god, he literally thinks that there should be no government whatsoever.
Yeah, and there shouldn't be no government whatsoever. Look at all the shit government's done. The genocide, you know, Pol Pot, the Khmer Rouge, and Hitler, the Holocaust, and Stalin, the famine or purges, and Mao Zedong did something similar. And slavery was done by government, you know, colonies run by government. That's what makes them colonies, colonists. I mean, come on, Rational Disconnect. You're being very immature and mocking them for being an anarchist when, you know, your system which you support either does or leads or inclines to these sorts of things. Government is a joke. Anarcho-capitalism is reality, it's truth. You don't really support freedom if you support a government. It's the antithesis of freedom. It's, oh, we gotta have authority and laws, you know? Yeah, that works. I mean, if government is so great, then why does it do all these tragedies, all these atrocities? You know, you wouldn't have that with anarcho-capitalism. You wouldn't have genocide with anarcho-capitalism because you wouldn't have disarmament of people. You wouldn't have tyranny, you wouldn't have limiting of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. You wouldn't have all that. All this shit you get with government. But you act like someone's just a damn fool for thinking there should be no state, which has been the greatest destruction of humanity ever created. That's just dumb of you.
Oh my god, I can't breathe.
Yeah, it's so fucking funny. Oh my god, someone wants freedom. So fucking funny.
Hi, sorry about that. But he is literally arguing for the absence of courts here. So you're trying to tell me...
So, yeah, there can be private courts. You don't need public courts, you can have private courts. You even showed it on your mouth in a post-production edit. Public courts. So, you're basically admitting... You know he means private courts rather than no courts, and you're gonna act like he means no courts at all. I mean, come on, Rational.
That corporations are totally capable of buying off the government. And so we shouldn't trust the government to our court systems. But we should trust the court systems to those who would buy off the government. In this system...
Wait, what? The court systems are just companies hired by, like, the anarcho-capitalist society. It's not what you're suggesting. There's no elitism involved. I mean...
You're just making it easier for the corrupt people to corrupt the system.
No, you're not. You're making it easier with the state. Private courts would be subject to the free market, and if they suck, people go to better private courts. Can you go to a better government? No. I mean, you can elect different politicians, but it's still the same government. It's still government. It's still about monopoly and force. I mean, think about how hard people need to beg just to get oppressive police officers out of power. That's government for you. You know, you gotta beg the government to get rid of unjust people in suits. You don't have to do it out for company. You just fire them. You know, you don't have to beg for company. You know, you're fired. You're a bad employee, bad person, you're fired. I mean, come on.
Once again, we fall into this weird area where you think we're going to be able to vote with our wallets. You know, unless they buy the courts and change laws.
Who are there to buy the courts? The people who pay for the courts are the ones running the courts. You can't just buy a court someone else paid for that works for someone else. That makes no sense.
They give themselves even more power to violate persons and property.
You're not getting more power, it's just a freaking court that's private.
Under your system, there is no way to get out of that system. What you're proposing would allow the people who already manage to have more wealth than the rest of the population and constantly just ignore laws. That would make it easier for them.
Government gets in bed with corporations, which like the government, which like the elites, and which are elites. Look at the oil companies. You already brought up BP. You know, look at them. They get in bed with politicians. Without politicians getting in bed with, they're not as powerful.
They would put less restrictions on them. I don't see how...
You can have an anarcho-commune place restrictions on businesses. You don't need to have a law of the land state to put restrictions on businesses.
How any rational person can think that that is actually a better system. Okay.
How can any rational person think that going on and on and on with the state is a rational system? You know, I swear, you statists have it so backwards that we need this state, otherwise we suck or we'll get fucked or whatever. When it's the exact opposite, we don't need this state. And if we don't want to suck or get fucked, we need to get rid of it. It's not about, you know, chaos or people doing this and that, taking advantage. No, that's what you get with government. Without government, you have peace. With government, you have war, you have violence. Okay, what's he doing this time?
They're the only organization capable of doing this. So let's say a company does something that harms our environment, that kills a bunch of people. Well, if they can pay those people off cheaper than they can fix the problem, then that's exactly what they'll do.
Almost as if there are regulations that tell them that they have to pay a token sum of money instead of being tried for property damage and manslaughter like the rest of us.
No, not the music again. Not the music again.
That's literally the law. They had to pay money for ruining the environment. They paid money. That's literally the law. What? You don't think that's the law? Irrational disconnect? I mean, really? Citation needed in the description. Jesus Christ.
Citation, please? Okay, so I have no idea what the hell he's talking about here. There aren't any regulations in place that say that companies can't be sued for property damage. There are regulations in place that say that if a company violates them, they'll get fined. Like how BP was fined over $1 billion for that oil spill. They were still sued multiple times in civil cases, though. How would that be any different in your system? If you want there to be literally no government, then that means that there's no guaranteed fine of some kind, so they can also buy out the courts.
Okay. Look, in an ANCAP society, you could sue a company for ruining your settlement. A company couldn't just get away with doing shit to your stuff, like, you know, in a state of society such as today in the US, where, you know, a small guy tries to sue a company for polluting his land and doesn't get much headway due to the courts not really caring, due to the elites paying off the politicians to run the courts and stuff. The ANCAP society would have rules that you couldn't have your company fuck it up. So if the company were to break those rules, they get shut down. You know, you wouldn't have this big fat oil lobby that, you know, was created by the oil cartels and politicians. You wouldn't have that. That's how it'll work.
Or they could just settle out of court. In the system that we have now, we can always change those regulations to hit offending corporations even harder than we do right now.
You could throw all the regulations you want. It's not going to help if government's inherently bad, if corporatism's inherently bad, if elitism is inherently bad. No amount of regulation could make things good. No amount of regulation could make it right. No amount of regulation is going to work. The elites are going to find a way to tilt the system towards them rather than the people at large. I mean, government itself is a group of elites, so don't expect it to work.
Your systems offer no such protection. If you're on the bottom or the middle of the ladder, you are fucked. I don't see how your system's any more superior here.
You're not fucked in an ANCAP society. You're not. In fact, you're more fucked in a status society than an ANCAP society. In a status society, you have elitism abounds. In anarcho-capitalist, in an ANCAP society, you don't have any elitism whatsoever. They shield the guilty from justice, you know, to make people untouchable if they have enough money or enough connections. You don't have that. You know, if you harm someone, you will be held accountable for it, period. In a state society, well, if you have the right connections and the right amount of dough, you don't get held accountable, or you don't get held accountable so hard.
Exactly what unfettered capitalism is. This is why we need regulations.
Little known fact, if you repeat something over and over, it becomes even more true than it was before.
No, that isn't a fact. That's why you're stating all these straw men.
He's not stating... He's just saying Dusty is repeating himself a lot, okay? That's all he's saying. He's, you know, Dusty repeats himself, he appeals to emotion, he acts like he's right, that we just need more government, that the state works, and that we just don't have enough of it, why these companies are running amok. He acts like that. And he keeps saying it over and over again. And Dapper is just trying to get at the point that he's repeating a bad point over and over again. He's not saying that, oh, he's really true saying that point.
Sarcasm getting through?
Libertarians don't want the government involved in anything. For somehow they convince themselves that the government is evil, but government is not evil. Okay, just because our government is broken does not mean government is not useful.
Okay, listen to this. 80% of prisoners are non-violent offenders. Not evil, my ass.
Oh, jeez, here we go again with the melodramatic attempt at humor. Okay, it's a little funny, but more cringe than funny.
Okay, I searched for at least a half an hour. I couldn't find the statistic anywhere. I don't know where the fuck he got this from, because...
Okay, I'll find it for you then. Okay, see, look at this. Why we need prison reform? Victimless crimes, 36 federal prison population, more drugs. Criminals aren't violating rights. There is no victim. Drug trade. Drugs. 50.7% of that 86% of the 100% of people in jail. Public order, violent, 7.9%. Property, other. Yeah. I found that within seconds. Irrational disconnect.
Because if you go look at his video, he provides no links for anything he's talking about. So
well, you see this nice guy over here? I'll put a link for that.
I just had to assume that he pulled this 80% figure out of his ass.
He didn't. I just showed you. Oh god, Wizard of Oz, here we go again.
I mean, once again, this is a total straw man argument, because it's not addressing Dusty's point. Dusty's point is that despite the fact that some amount of prisoners that are in prison populations right now are non-violent, and that's a fucked up thing. But that doesn't negate all of the government. That's like saying that because there's some fucked up elements in capitalism, that we should just get rid of capitalism.
Okay, well that's just one fucked up part of government. There are other points that when combined together reveal, yeah, you should get rid of the government. That's just one. I mean, okay, maybe you could argue that that's one point against bad government, or that's just one aspect. Does that mean you get rid of the whole thing? Maybe you could argue it doesn't mean you get rid of the whole thing, but you at least get rid of that thing. And I can at least bring up other points that when accumulated together reveal you shouldn't have a government.
It's fucking ridiculous and juvenile. Not only that, but it also ignores why we have such a large prison population in the United States. In fact, it's the largest prison population in the world.
This is true.
One of the main reasons of that is because years ago we started privatizing prisons. Now those—
What? That's not the reason for a large prison population. It's because of the war on drugs. That's the reason. See? Look at this. Drugs, 50%, 50.7%. More than half the people are in drugs for non-violent drug offenses. That's the reason, not privatization of prisons. Guess who's sending people to the private prisons? Government. Whether it be a public prison, whether it be a private prison, it's government sending people there. That's the problem. Not, oh, it's privatized.
Those prisons lobby so they can get as many prisoners in those jails to make as much money as they possibly can.
And who do they lobby to? The government.
That helps to change state regulations to get more and more prisoners in. So once again,
yeah, state regulations. Big help, huh?
Under your system, where we cut the government out, what exactly protects people from privatized prisons that make money when prisoners are in there?
Oh, okay, let's see. No government to throw them in jail for victimless crimes. No violent black market. You only get sent there if you do crime, actual hurting another person crime. How's that for protection? And people wouldn't tolerate a private prison and send people in jail for victimless crimes in an handicapped society. It's not gonna happen. People don't want to see their friends and family sent in jail for over a fucking plant. In a state society, people are pretty much conditioned or even forced to support such a system because of government, however.
How exactly do you vote with your wallet to stop private prisons? What product are you buying from them? But guess what? A lot of private prisons...
I guess to vote with your wallet, you can use Bitcoin instead of fiat currency from the government. Try to starve the government out from taxes, that could be voting with your wallet.
Right now, actually manufacture tons of shit. A lot of things that you buy are manufactured by prisoners, and they're paid basically no money. Or in some cases, literally no money. These are the kinds of things that happen when you leave an industry unregulated and in charge of a public service.
No, this is what happens when you have a system called government that gets to control goods and services, that gets to control the economy, that gets to control everything. Government did the war on drugs. The government's the one sending people to the prisons. The government's the one that is, you know, throwing $100 trillion down the toilet for a drug war. The government is the one, you know, trying to convince people, oh, marijuana is bad, or that it just can't be used medically. That's the government, not the private sector government. The private sector is just a corporatist side point of government, okay?
That's another issue under anarcho-capitalism. If you privatize the roads, and then they decide to, you know, charge a massive toll on you, how the fuck do you vote with your wallet there? There's only one road. You don't have another option of where to go.
You have multiple road companies, hello? And you have the businesses pay for the roads to have the roads go to them in the first place. Or you have shipping companies that use the roads to pay for them. Or you have people pay for the roads that use them via bill in the mail. Or you have even car companies pay for the roads that have something for the people who buy their cars to even drive on in the first place. You don't need a toll booth. You vote for your wallet with the better road companies.
I mean, I understand why he mostly talks in these simplified arguments. It's because as soon as you start thinking about things and analyzing facts, his political system completely falls apart.
Well,
It doesn't. You didn't disprove it at all.
The reason that every country in the entire world has a government.
Yeah, ignorance. Every country in the entire world had monarchy, slavery, all sorts of horrible shit.
Wait, and how exactly does that mean that your system's gonna work? Just because...
You know, anarcho-capitalism existed for at least 200,000 years, okay? Link in the description. It's only in the last 5,000 years that government popped up and decided to start calling the shots around here. You can work with an anarcho-capitalism. You don't need the state. You don't need persecution for victimless crimes. You don't need tariffs. You don't need taxes. You don't need police brutality. You don't need any of that. Anarcho-capitalism has already been shown to work with history.
Those systems were bad doesn't mean that your system's gonna work.
And you can...
True, but it will. I mean, history shows this. In fact, they got a current city in Mexico that's anarcho-capitalist and it works.
Ask them directly, what happens to people that don't have enough money, who can't afford their life-saving medical procedures and can't find charity to pay for it?
Why wouldn't they be able to afford it? They'd be living under libertarianism, and they would be paying zero to hardly any taxes, and would have significantly more money than they would today. Hence, they would be able to afford it.
Man, I gotta get the word out about this. Hey, 45% of Americans who don't pay federal income tax because the government subsidizes their tax returns. Mr. Dapperton says that you'll pay even fewer taxes. Yeah, that's right, you'll have to pay even less than 0% in taxes. You know the motto of libertarianism? We tax you even less than 0%. So, you know how you can't afford medical bills because it's the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States?
Dude, your angle isn't making any sense. People of all walks of life pay taxes. You pay sales tax, there's gasoline tax, there's property tax, you're still paying taxes. Even with the chart, showed...
Well, don't worry! You'll have 0% more
There's still taxes to be paid.
Money that you can spend on that! And don't worry, guys, gals, gender non-conforming, and furries who are making between $0 and $9,225 a year, you can kiss...
And it's corporatism that's making things super expensive.
That 10% tax goodbye! Now, with that extra $927 in your wallet, you can afford one night stay of inpatient care in 10 of the 50 states in the United States of America! That's right, all you have to do is get rid of all forms of government because business will look out for you and you'll be able to regulate it yourself!
Well, that's what would have to happen. If businesses charge too much, people don't go to them. They can't go to them. When a business is charged the right amount, people can go to them and they do go to them. And it's the market forces. None of this corporatism, none of this insurance, none of this free healthcare for all bullshit. But since you're arguing from a very bad angle, you wouldn't know any of that.
Is the sarcasm getting through?
Yes, it's getting through and it's really stupid and annoying.
What happens to those people? And the libertarian response, literally, is fuck them.
What happens to everyone once your universal healthcare scheme collapses under the weight of the debt like Greece? Fuck them as well, I guess.
Yeah, you know, Greece, the country whose GDP is less than 1% of the United States. That's a total valid comparison.
Fuck that!
Look, either way, a country getting in debt is a country getting in debt. It's not good to have universal healthcare. It's not good to have shortages of beds, medicine, doctors, time, you know, even patient prioritization. It's not good to have that. So universal healthcare won't work.
There's plenty of money to go around, man. There are people with fucking billions of dollars in their bank. Billions! Even if you took 98% of their money, they would still have so much money they couldn't spend it 10 lifetimes. So the people that think that the greater good is really done by having no taxes taken from these rich people.
You know what? In 2010, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the 1% paid 24.2% of all income taxes, the 20% paid 68.8% of all income taxes, and the bottom 40% only paid 4.2% of all income taxes. Those rich people aren't paying any taxes at all, am I right?
Oh man, I didn't realize it was that much. That 1 to 20% of Americans must really be hurting. Hey, wait a minute. It looks like despite all the taxes they pay, the top 20% of Americans own 89% of the wealth in America, 35.4% of which is owned just by the top 1%. Wow, so it looks like their taxes track with how much of the wealth they have. Actually, wait, no. If it went with that, it would actually be higher.
Let them suck as much money out of...
Okay, look. Rich pay the most in federal income tax. What you're showing is a bit different, so... Still not a valid point.
The system, completely unregulated as they possibly can.
Yes, a system with 80,000 pages of regulations is completely unregulated. What you don't understand is what's making these people filthy rich is all these government regulations. They do nothing more than cut out the competition. You are asking for more government regulation, but that's what's making the poor poorer and the rich richer.
I just don't understand.
You can look this up. You can look this up, Irrational Disconnect. I can look this up. Links in the description. Let's keep going.
Understand how he's making these broad generalizing terms about every single one of those regulations? Like, you know, some of them are environmental and some of them have to do with taxes. They have to do with wildly different things. I don't see how every single one of those regulations are keeping competition and keeping the little guy out. Like
Big businesses can pay for regulations. Little businesses can't. That's why big businesses advocate for regulation. Little businesses can't pay for it, so they push out the competition. That's how.
Regulation that promotes work safety. How exactly is that hurting small businesses and only helping big businesses?
These libertarians literally...
Okay, if the big businesses can afford the safety regulations, but the little businesses can't, the little businesses are obviously going to get pushed out.
They want to get rid of public education. They think everything should be privatized, even schools. If you actually look into the core Libertarian Party beliefs, they only want education for those who can afford it.
Yes, capitalism is known for keeping things unaffordable, hence why Dusty couldn't afford a camera or a computer, something that used to be a luxury.
Wait a minute, is Dusty a poor person? Fuck, no! This is another straw man.
He didn't say Dusty was poor. He's just saying computers used to be insanely expensive. That's all he's saying. They used to not be around for the average middle-class civilian, but now they are. What are you talking about by him saying Dusty's poor? You're the one who's strawmanning.
I mean, by this logic, literally everything should be affordable under capitalism. So right now...
To some... How do I say this? Okay, look. There will still be pricey things in capitalism that only the rich can afford, but a lot more of the basic necessities be affordable to a lot more of the people, and things will be cheaper than in a state society. Things will be as cheap as possible. Yeah, you'll still have some things that are mainly for the rich, but they'll be cheaper than if they were in a state society. Same with the goods for the middle class, same for the goods with the lower class. Capitalism makes things cheaper due to market forces. States that makes things more expensive due to elitism and rigid regulation. That's what's going on here.
Now, the reason that public school is affordable is because everybody's taxed for it. The reason everyone's taxed for it is because, you know, it's an investment in the future. It's to teach our kids so that they know what the fuck they're doing and they're not all complete morons that, believe in anarcho-capitalism. So
oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my god, there's so much wrong with this argument. Public school is made to brainwash. Look up Horace Mann, look at the Prussian system, look up the, history of public schooling. The people who ran the system even said for themselves they wanted to mold you into what they wanted you to be. And, ad hominem attacks like, morons, public school is there to make sure morons don't agree with your point of view. That makes no sense. In public school, being affordable, yeah, they make everyone pay taxes for it, but does that make it right? No, it doesn't. Taxation is bad, public school is crap, there's lots of bullying, lots of shootings, lots of abusive teachers, and teacher-student relationships. I don't think this is something worth being forced to pay for. It's not. It's not. Private school could be affordable if there weren't so many regulations, and you didn't have to pay for public school on top of that.
For capitalism, instead of paying a small amount of taxes for each individual child, the parents would have to shoulder all of that cost. If your logic's correct, why aren't private schools the cheapest opportunity everywhere?
Because they're regulated.
They should be out-competing public schools. But they don't, because they're fucking expensive.
Yeah, and on top of that, you have to pay for public school even if you don't have a kid that goes there. They make you pay for 2 schools. Well, the government makes you pay for one, and the private school makes you pay for it if you use private school. That makes sense. The private school making you pay. But the government making you pay for a school you don't even use, that's bullshit. That shouldn't happen, but it does. Because statism.
So let's give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that somehow the market drives the cost way down for schooling. That still doesn't help poor people. There's going to be some amount of people that won't be able to afford it, no matter how low the cost is.
And there are charities that educate these people, and plus, you can have an informal education. You don't need school necessarily to learn. You can learn from a friend, you can learn from an apprenticeship, you can learn from a job, you can learn from freelancing. You don't necessarily need school to be successful.
There are people that can't afford their fucking rent right now. So what that's going to lead to is some amount of schools skimping down. They're going to give the bare minimum. They're going to give you textbooks that are way too fucking old and facilities that are the shittiest thing around. Basically a ton of schools just like Detroit. So now...
Yeah, which is public school, which is run by government. Without argument.
Now, all of these people are going to be forced to go to these terrible schools in the capitalist system. If the shitty school that has 20-year-old outdated books and only offers...
That's public school for you.
It's like 3 courses, and that's the only thing you can afford, you're stuck with that option. So that's going to lead to an endemic amount of children being undereducated. Because guess what? As we already pointed out, the bottom % of Americans make almost no money. So they'll be able to afford almost no schooling. And as I already pointed out...
There's charity schools, there's learning outside of school, the free market can really make things work out. Oh my god.
Those people won't be fucking saving any money on your tax breaks, because they already get tax breaks. So that means 45% of Americans...
We have to pay sales tax, that sucks ass.
...are going to be in the lurch.
So they would not be able to afford this education without government subsidization, which libertarians are completely against.
Okay, we don't want government, meaning we don't want taxes. If we don't want taxes, that means you will have tons of surplus money, and you can afford private education, easily.
Okay, I watched this music video, I actually like it, but it's kind of annoying the way he uses it.
So basically, if you're really poor and your parents can't afford to send you one of these private schools, fuck you!
So what, donations don't exist? People are not wealthy enough or smart enough to just give people money?
Sure, there will be some amount of people that give to charities, but it will be considerably less than it is right now. That's because if you get rid of taxes, you get rid of tax incentives for giving to charities. That means a ton of the most wealthy people who donate to charity to get tax write-offs won't do it for that reason anymore.
People used to donate to charity more, but due to government regulation, they donate to charity less. Links in the description once again.
Let's go with the best case scenario. Let's say that people still give as much money as they used to. The proposed education budget for 2017...
Yeah, exactly. They gave more back then.
...is $69 billion. I decided to add up the total revenue for the top 100 charities in America.
Yeah, that's for the public school system you mentioned. Public school is expensive as hell.
And that total came to $42.7 billion. Not too shabby, but it's still over $20 billion shy to meet all funding. So that means that a massive amount of assistance is going to be gone. So you would have to somehow prove that given the free market, you could close that massive gap for everyday people.
But they're smart enough and wealthy enough to get taxed and have that money forcibly taken from them via violence from an authoritarian government, an authoritarian government that frequently kills people for nonviolent crimes.
Yeah, that's right, because the IRS kills so many people every single year. They commit all that fucking violence against tax evaders. Holy shit. Oh, man. Oh. But it looks like most people who violate their taxes don't even face charges by the IRS. So...
You know they have an armed branch to the IRS, right? And you know they stopped Al Capone and just do that in his tracks for evading taxes, right? And I'm pretty damn sure I can link to some sources about people being aggressed upon by the IRS.
Yeah.
Every successful person, everybody that made money because the system was created that allowed them to make money. An entire system formed by taxpayers, the people that came before them, was built up to allow them to make the money that they can make.
Peasants, you should give your lords 40% of your crops. You only managed to have successfully planted them because the system of feudalism protected you.
So Dusty's argument is that people on the top owe the people on the bottom of society because the people on the bottom of society helped get those rich people to the top. Now, Mr.
Look, they were paid in wages. The workers are paid in wages, the rich are paid in profits. The workers are paid in expenses, the rich are paid in profit. The rich already paid their dues. There's no extra dues for the rich to pay.
Mr. Dapperton decides, in all of his brilliance, to use an analogy in which the top of the society is saying to the bottom of the society that they owe them something. You're just saying the inverse of what somebody else says.
He's not saying that at all.
I mean, anybody can do that. Doesn't mean it's a cogent argument. I mean, look, okay, I'll do it no matter what your next argument is. Then tell me if you find it convincing.
Look, folks, you have to pay back into the system that benefited you.
Little known fact, if you repeat something over and over, it becomes even more true than it was before.
Touché.
If you don't pay back into that system, you fuck it up for everybody else who comes after you. It actually benefits you to pay back into the system because it makes the system better for everybody. It makes the entire system as a whole better. A rising tide lifts all sails.
Rising tide lifts all boats. Not all boats have sails.
I see. Your totally needless pedantry totally countered Dusty's argument.
Okay, a bit of a nitpick, but Dusty's argument doesn't make any sense. He's acting like the government helps you make money rather than the free market. The free market is the one allowing people to have jobs, goods and services, money. People invest in it, people get results out of it. That's not... Why would the government even have a role in people choosing to make a business and people choosing to work for that business? That makes no sense.
Good job.
We should have a safety net for the poorest among us.
That safety net will quickly become a hammock which falls down under its own weight. And why can't the safety net be in the form of donations? Something that won't crash and burn.
Yeah, except for, once again, those 31 countries that currently have universal health care of some kind. They're all in perfect shape. And they pay way less for medical procedures than...
The NHS in the UK and whatever Canada has is in sorry shape. But you're not going to mention that, no, are you? Links in the description again.
And way less for prescription drugs. It really seems like for some reason you think that donations are going to magically just go up. We already established that if you took all of the money from the top 100 charities, they wouldn't even fulfill the education budget.
The education budget that's made by the government, that makes things more expensive. That's not the private education budget, that's a government education budget. You have no argument.
Let alone a healthcare budget.
Yes, the government's incredibly fucked up, but just because it's incredibly fucked up does not mean it's unnecessary.
It doesn't only mean it's not necessary, it means it doesn't work, bitch.
I'm reminded of something that somebody else once said.
Little known fact, if you repeat something over and over, it becomes even more true than it was before.
Bitch.
Oh, come on, really? That cheap shot? Oh, Jesus.
We should be taking care of each other. We should be looking out for each other.
That's not your actual position. You want the government to take care of you while you scratch your balls.
Yeah, you hear that? You stupid hungry kids. You elderly infirmed people. You mentally disabled individuals. The physically disabled. And the destitute. Your problems are all just as trivial as some guy wanting his balls scratched by the government. Mr. Dapperton.
You didn't say that.
Right.
Golly, you're the one strawman.
You need to just sit there and continue to suffer and hope that some of the rich 10% are going to happen to give money to you. Wow, they end up giving money to education and to healthcare just out of the goodness of their hearts, even though they would have to give about 3 times more than they currently give to every single fucking charity.
I already explained, that's a government budget. Free market budget would be a lot cheaper. Oh my god.
I wish your loved ones could help you, but they're all probably busy out there spending that 0% in extra income they had by not having to pay the taxes that they already don't pay. With all that extra money, I'm sure they're going out and getting really cheap healthcare and prescription drugs. They're probably even getting you really cheap and top-notch education. And don't worry, because corporations will most likely make both of those things cheaper, despite the fact that they make those things incredibly expensive now, because you have no other choice but to fucking buy them.
Exactly, and that's due to elitism.
Is the sarcasm?
In my opinion,
yes, it's getting through. It's annoying.
The government's job should be to maximize the happiness of its citizens. And if that means taking a few more percentage from really, really rich people to make sure we pay for education and healthcare for all our citizens, that's obviously the greater good. I think you're on the wrong side of history. I think your policies are idiotic, and I have no problem standing up, looking you guys right in the idea, and telling you why. Logic.
Wait, what logic? I didn't hear any.
Well, we made it through my first response video. Be sure to share this with Mr. Dapperton. If you have any comments, or you just want to call me a beta cuck, go ahead and put them down in the comments. And go ahead and subscribe. I might be doing more responses like this. Probably going to stick to the science videos that I already had scheduled out. We'll see what the response is to this response video, and then we'll go from there.
Oh jeez, well, that was painful to sit through. I hope I did a good job debunking this. I didn't feel like I did a good job, but I hope I did a good job anyway. If I didn't do a good job, I hope I do a better job next time on debunked videos. Anyways, that's it. Long video. Had to do this over multiple days due to being busy. Long video, goodbye.